Leaving a safe career path to launch a startup can be nerve-wracking and risky, but also a life-changing experience. That's why mentorship from those who've done it before is crucial for first-time founders. And I can't imagine a better mentor and guide to have than our guest. He's one of the co-founders of Twitch, an avid angel investor, and is still in the game of disruption with several projects including Meta Theory and the startup accelerator Ikigai Launchpad. I'm Divya Gopalan. With me in the studio is Kevin Lin, and this is Connected on TaiwanPlus. Kevin, thank you for joining us, and it's so good to have you in our studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Great to be in the studio.
What a privilege to have you right here. You moved into Taiwan in 2021 to escape the lockdowns in the US, but what's kept you here since?
Yeah, I was pretty accidental. We came here end of 2020, end of November, with my parents, just to get out of the Bay Area. It was still on lockdown, it was still relatively unsafe, and we just didn't feel very good there. My parents hadn't gone outside in a while. They were just so scared of various things, COVID, Asian hate, everything. And so we came here presumably for a month or two. And a couple practical things. Just healthcare system here is very functional. It's very affordable. And then a lot of my friends are out here. Met a lot of new friends. Taiwanese people are just really friendly and actually follow up and want to hang out and show you around and show you their favorite spot to eat or spot to hike or things to do, and just really found community here very fast for myself. And so while unexpected, just decided to stick around. Nice place. It was going back to the States a decent amount first couple of years, but lately mostly just staying here.
So Taiwan is home?
It's home, yeah. It's home. It's 4.5 years now.
Okay, so let's talk about your latest project, Ikigai Launchpad, Accelerator for early stage founders. Now, firstly, tell us about the name Ikigai.
Yeah, so Ikigai is a Japanese word that means the reason for being, assuming society exists around you, or life's purpose. It is the perfect intersection. It's sort of displayed as a Venn diagram of 4 circles. And it's the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what society needs, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. And so I find in my sort of journey in startup that for me, Twitch was something I really cared about. Did I know that I would care about it? Did I even understand that it could be a thing when I started? No, but what mattered to me anyway was, and I think a lot of the team, was that it felt like we were making a difference for the world, that it was helping people. And we loved it. We loved games, part of the subculture that was gaming as we were in it in Twitch in the early days in 2010, 2011, when we were just getting started. Gaming was still really sort of shunned. It was really talked down by media. It was told to the general population as a solitary, lonely, basement-dwelling habit that was antisocial and bad for you. People blamed all kinds of things on games. And so underneath all the work that we were doing from the platform side, the technology side, and the community building was like, can we make games cool? There was sufficient data about games that said, games are good for you. They help you learn not only hand-eye coordination and social skills, but even management, even team coordination, even other things like that. And so that really mattered to us, and that take away from my experience there, and a lot of the partners that we work with on Ikigai, like Hai Huang, who built Guitar Hero, and Jameson Su, who also built a game company, and others who had built social networks and other sort of consumer platforms. We felt that the work we were doing was important to us and to society, and so we believe that it is important. Not every investor out there believes this, right? Mm-hmm. Not every investor believes that your purpose must be driven by work, and I don't disagree with that necessarily, but I do find that if you do love the work, it makes it much better for you.
So in a nutshell, what's Ikigai's mission?
So we are accelerating businesses out here, startup. We're the first check-in. We write 100,000 US, 3 million NT for 8% of the company. It's modeled after Y Combinator. Y Combinator is the most successful, really venture capital model, in my opinion, in the world. And they churn out hundreds of companies a year, many of which now are huge public companies. Like Airbnb, Dropbox, et cetera. There's lots of Coinbase. They've done a lot of crypto companies as well. And we wanted to replicate that model here for folks that wanted to build a startup from the ground up. So we coach them in a similar way. It's a 10-week program. Then we help them raise money at demo day. One of our goals actually is to get more Taiwanese founders into Y Combinator and other global accelerators, because those communities, those networks, the mentors there are truly amazing. And I think if you can get more integrated in those communities, it'll ultimately be long-term better for the local ecosystem as well.
Are there particular sectors you're looking at in the startups that you do want to incubate or to lead?
We're quite broad with it. The fund on my side behind it, Lifelike, is we invest generally in consumer, although we do full stack. So we invest in semiconductor, deep tech, we invest in AI, we invest in hardware. So we're looking at new interface designs, right, like glasses or VR, although VR I still think is kind of far out. But AR glasses as an example, or other AI interfaces. But the primary focus for us there is consumer. So it's the 7 hours a day the average person spends on their phone watching video, on social networks, or playing games. With Ikigai, though, because we need to adapt to the local market while consumers are specialty, we look at everything. So we'll look at B2B, we'll look at B2B2C, we'll look at deep tech, we'll look at hardware. So whatever the founders here are interested in building, as long as we also feel like we could be helpful there, which with the team we have is pretty broad.
But the ones you mentioned hail from the software industry mostly. Are you? So why do this in Taiwan, which really doesn't have the software strength?
Yeah, I think for us it's the difference that we can make, right? And I think Taiwan talent is excellent. I've worked here now. I mean, I've been coming for work with my previous company since 2010. Met a bunch of startups, met a bunch of founders and engineers and investors and so on. So I had a sort of a long view of what's going on here. And software is one of those things, especially now with AI, the advent of vibe coding and things like that. Anybody can do it, and it's very low cost. And you're starting to see companies out there that are highly impactful, that are worth $1 billion, make hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and have tiny teams. And while San Francisco still has massive gravity there, and it's been very difficult for other places to replicate it, although they successfully have in many places around the world, a startup ecosystem. I think there's no reason why Taiwan can't do software well. So I think there's a unique advantage here in the sense that there is a couple things. Talent here is really good. They work really hard. They are more affordable to companies as you scale up a team than in the U.S. or parts of Europe. And so I think there's a lot of desire here as well. And so you mix all those things together. One of the issues we're trying to solve for is funding. The early stage funding in Taiwan has not been very strong. This is just more lower risk tolerance, more conservative investment model here. And so we're going in, pre-product sometimes they do have a product, but we'll invest and spend a lot of time with people. And so I think that there's this massive sea change happening with AI, and I think anybody, no matter where you are, really can capitalize on it. And so I think it's a good timing window also for Taiwan.
You mentioned funding. Do you think that's the biggest missing piece of the puzzle here in Taiwan, as Taiwan's been trying to shape itself as a startup hub? What is missing in the ecosystem?
It's a complex question. I think funding is important, primarily because if you're a college graduate, you not only want to find a good job. Of course, everyone wants stability in life and wealth. You have sort of parental pressure, right, to go to a place that your parents can also brag about. And TSMC and places like that are sort of the shining beacon in Taiwan, rightfully so. Huge companies, globally very important and powerful, and so very very good and impressive job to get. So the hard part is for really excellent engineers or product folks or business folks. Like it's easier to do that. And I talked to a lot of VCs out here, and the sort of general opinion of this is what happens is you lose out on the creativity at peak sort of youth, post-college, post-masters, post-PhD, when your mind is most open and able to create something interesting and solve hard problems. You end up going and mostly iterating, and so you lose a lot of that. And your brain, sort of loses what college tries to teach you, which is not only how do you learn quickly and think critically, although that's another point I'll talk about later. How do you socialize? How do you understand what's going on around you, really, in most of your day? Now you go to a job, you're working 10 to 12 hours a day, you're iterating on one thing, working with a small team. You start to lose that. It's a muscle, right? You have to practice it, and so you have to give people the alternative option. And in Taiwan, I think what matters is you need to make a salary. In the US, it's generally accepted. If you pass up on your Google job of $250,000 straight out of college as an engineer to start a company. You can raise money, you can pay yourself, you're not paying yourself $250,000, but there's a lot of pride in that, a lot of respect in that process of starting a company. Not so here, right? For the older generation, going and starting a company is like a fool's errand. So I think that there's all these cultural issues, right, that are pretty deeply ingrained here that you need to get over. Money solves part of that. The other complex parts are education system here doesn't teach critical thinking. They don't encourage you to ask questions. That's true of like generally East Asia, right? That's not like a unique to Taiwan thing. And learning is a very complex process. It's not just school. And so I think you need to solve for that. You need to give people those types of programs that aren't just about memorization. And math is complex too, but like a lot of it is memorization and sort of piecing the puzzle together versus like truly problem solving something that is for instance, a large user societal issue that you can solve through technology is just a bit more abstract than people here learn. So I think that's another big problem. The third one, or maybe I don't know how many I mentioned actually. The other one that I think is really big is fear of failure. In America, you're taught from a young age that failure is okay. Right, you're taught that through sports system, you're taught that through music, you're taught that through a lot of things, and in school as well, right? You're supposed to raise your hand, you're supposed to do things that are uncomfortable for you, and so you learn that. Here, I'm not sure where this breaks down, but in my personal experience and what I hear from most of my friends out here, whether founders or VCs or corporate managers, people want things to be perfect before they show it to you, and that is impossible. It's actually impossible. And the fundamental problem, what the output looks like there, is you move really slowly. You may end up building exactly the right thing for a user, but you've lost out on all this time to learn actually what the user wants, which goes back to my last problem, where thinking critically requires feedback, right? You need to start a software company, you need a lot of feedback from users. You need to learn to process that feedback. And if the longer you take to get the feedback, the more likely someone will beat you, right? There's a sub problem there, which is confirmation bias. I think that's another thing. That's a subset of fear of failure, is not wanting to admit that you might be wrong in your assumptions, right? One of the most beautiful things you learn as an entrepreneur is you go into user studies or releasing product with a core set of assumptions that hopefully you've devised from data and user feedback and certain other things, but mostly those two. And you're wrong. And you need to embrace the wrongness. You need to embrace the failure. You need to embrace the fact that you deduced the wrong thing and move on. And so I think that's like this partially fear of failure thing where they don't want to admit, on average, the person doesn't want to admit, oh, I was wrong. It's okay, it's cool. Like it's cool to be wrong actually. The more wrong you are, the faster, the more likely you are to be successful in startup.
So what was interesting is when we interviewed a venture capitalist, quite a prominent one, and he had told us that he particularly seeks out founders who failed before, because he feels that they have learned then, and there are things that they can build on. So what are you saying to the people that come to you, to the founders that come to you about failing?
Yeah, it's part of the process. I think the fact that you've tried it before means, and you want to do it again, means you have grit, you have determination, you have perseverance, and that is critical. That's critical for critical set of founder features. You have to have the willingness to know that your probability of winning is infinitesimally small, right? 1% of startups typically win. Some will survive and carry on and then feel like a grind. And so that's why, for us, purpose, love for the work makes a big difference. Because even if you don't build $1 billion business, but you're making millions a year, you're now working for yourself. You have a team that's working for you that you can support. And there's just something, I think, it is, I think that's good for society if you have a bunch of small businesses. So I think that, failure, looking for founders who have tried it before is huge. There's like a general rule in the industry, in venture capital and startups, that second-time founders, regardless of success or failure, doing it again as long as they can express that they've learned and learn about themselves through the process and have a certain self-awareness, have a competitive advantage because not only the learning, but they also now have some sort of network that can be valuable to them. They have employees they've worked with before that they've vetted through actual work. They know they're good. They know how to work with them. They've probably met more investors. They probably just understand the customer better and understand the problems better. So there's definitely an advantage there.